I didn't learn anything from this project. He goes, if there would have been some little failure, then I could have learned from it.
Thank you so much for coming here this morning. I really appreciate it, Dennis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great being here, Lance, and good to see you.
Yeah, and I really got a kick out of the letter that the little message you sent. Just so that you know, we've been through something at the club. The club always goes through its ups and downs, and that's what club life is all about. When I saw Dennis stand up at one of the town halls we had and tell his truth, I said, well, that's what the club is made of, members like that, and that's what I felt good about. So Dennis, let's start. Where were you born?
Yeah, originally I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. So
I haven't met. I think you're probably the first person I've met that's actually born. You were born in Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, Good Samaritan Hospital in downtown Phoenix. Yeah.
You have Indian blood in you or something?
No, I don't. But our family's minor claim to fame was. My great-great-grandfather was the first treasurer of the state of Arizona. So Arizona became a state in 1912, so my family's been there a long time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So what does your family do? I mean, so your great-great-great-grandfather was there.
Yep.
You're a lawyer now, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a patent attorney.
But patent attorney, that's what you told me before. So how did your family, what do they do there in Arizona now?
See, I'll tell you the quick family lore was they were ranchers in California in the 1800s, and there was a drought, and all the families or all the ranchers in the area were moving their cattle to greener pastures. So they were going through Arizona on this huge cattle train, and apparently our family's cattle ran off, and so they got separated from the cattle train, and then they ended up staying. They ended up staying, yeah. So because you always wonder why the heck would anyone move to the middle of a desert when you got California a couple hundred miles away, which is the most beautiful place in the world. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So that's the family story.
So does your family control a lot of that area?
You know what, Lance? I wish they did. I always asked my grandfather. I said, what happened, man? Well, what all this land? There's a place in Arizona called Paradise Valley, and he goes, it's a super wealthy, super nice place now, right? I said, Grandpa, why don't we have any land here? He goes, I remember when they were selling that for 5 cents an acre. I said, man. So no, we didn't have any land.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I got a younger brother who works with me. He's also a patent attorney, lives in New Jersey, and my sister's a doctor. She's a nurse anesthetist, so a PhD in nursing, and she is in between Florida and New Jersey as well.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest, yeah.
So how many years between you and your brother and your sister?
So now I'm 9 years older than my brother and 11 older than my sister.
Are you guys close? Oh, I guess you are. Your brother's working with you.
Yeah, we're very close. I talk to my siblings all the time. My brother, super nicest guy in the world. And he was working for a big law firm in Manhattan. And one of the reasons he quit his job is because he wanted to work together. Because I'm out here, and he goes, we don't talk as much. So, so it's nice. So I talk to my brother almost every day.
Is he married?
Yeah, married, 2 kids. Yeah.
You're not married yet, are you?
No, I'm still single.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What about your sister? Is she married?
Yeah, my sister's married, expecting her first kid in August, so that'll be fun. Gonna head back to the States in a few months. So,
so you just don't want wait. Instead of making one woman miserable, you're trying to make many women happy. Is that what you're doing?
I don't know if I'd put it that way, but yeah, maybe.
When you went through school in Arizona, did you stay there? How old were you when you finally left?
So I went to engineering school at Arizona State. So I was an electrical engineer, got out of school, worked in the defense aerospace industry at Honeywell. So Honeywell is the largest private employer in the state of Arizona. So they used to be Allied Signal, so we did a lot of aircraft engines, smoke detectors on airplanes, the halon system, cabin pressure control system, these kind of things. So
you're a patent lawyer, though.
Yeah. So the patent lawyer, it kind of combines law and engineering. So I'm a lawyer, but I work with engineers, on their new products, trying to protect their new products. So so that's where the overlap was. I never wanted to be a lawyer, right? I love the engineering aspect of it, and the lawyer thing was kind of new. What happened was the U.S. military has the Apache helicopter, and they were going to make the next generation called the Comanche. And so I got hired. I got hired by Honeywell in Tucson to help design some of these components. Well, the whole entire Comanche program got canceled, and they were going to start laying off people. Right, it was in a lull in the business cycle. And I remember talking to a senior engineer saying, "Man, great! I just got hired. Now I'm going to get fired because this stupid program, the whole program gets canceled." And he tells me, he goes, "Dennis," he goes, "No, you're not going to get fired." He goes, "Your job's safe." He goes, "You don't make any money." He goes, "They're going to fire the senior engineers. They make a lot more than you do." And I thought to myself, I said, "Oh man, I guess that's good for me." But then what happens when I become a senior engineer? Like when you're in your 50s or 60s or whatever, you don't want to have to go through that, BS.
Right, exactly.
So I started looking at other career options. I thought, maybe I'll try being a patent guy.
How old were you at that time?
23.
What'd your father do? What kind of work did your father do?
He was a salesman. He's a people person. So selling all sorts of stuff, from some technology stuff to selling books. And
Then to me, your mother and father still together?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's neat. So how old is your father now? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, he's going to be, I think, 65, somewhere around there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So he had you when he was young.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then you waited a long time to have your sister and then your brother? Or
Yeah, my brother and then sister.
Your brother and then your sister.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Does your mother work?
She did. They're both basically retired. They kind of work, a little bit, just kind of for fun and to stay busy.
Okay. So who pushed you in the direction that you went into? Because first of all, just in engineering.
Yeah.
Your father's a salesman.
Yeah, we had a one of my uncles was
On your mother or father's side?
Mother's side, really impressive guy. He was the top engineer at Disney, so the Imagineers. And as a little kid, you're thinking, this is so cool, and he was an electrical engineer. So I thought, well, my uncle, he's doing well. He seems, super smart guy. So I said, let me give this a shot. So
What were you like as a little kid? Were you more academic or were you more sports minded? I'm thinking elementary.
yeah, it was definitely more sports. I wanted to be a scientist when I was a kid, but I had no idea what that even meant, right? So, I loved doing sports. So
What kind of sports did you like to do when you were a little kid?
My favorite was basketball. That was my passion. But baseball, football too. But just kind of, pick up stuff. I played organized baseball, but I was never big enough for
So your school
football.
had all the facilities for everything?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
pretty good
absolutely.
school,
And,
okay.
just playing with friends too.
Right,
Playing
right.
touch football and,
Right.
just going out playing catch and, stuff like that.
So
Yeah.
when did the academics start to kick in? What subjects did you like first?
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't. I did okay in high school, but I didn't try.
Okay,
I didn't really care, right?
Right? Why? Because you felt bored in the classes? or
Just,
what?
I don't know. I wasn't. I didn't have the motivation. But when I got to college, I said, oh shit. Like if I don't do well, my life isn't going to be, isn't going to be not going to turn out how I want it to turn out.
So you're getting passing grades through elementary, junior high, high school.
Yeah, pretty good grades, but just not applying myself,
Okay.
And then in college for engineering school, then then I worked really hard. In the beginning, it was really difficult, but then you find your footing and
So
kind of
you
go
never
from there.
got into, what about the game centers and stuff like that?
Not really. I was more of an outside kid playing basketball and baseball stuff
So
like that.
so when you left high school and then you went into college,
Mhm.
you start thinking, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
What were you thinking that you wanted to do once you got out of high school and you said,
Man,
those are critical times for us because people are
Yeah,
putting a little bit of
yeah.
pressure on you. And
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't even really know what an engineer did. I told another family member I was going to be an electrical engineer, and they said, "Oh, what does that mean, an electrician?" And I
Right,
said,
right.
"Yeah, I don't know exactly. I think it's a little bit more than electrician, but
Right.
I don't know." So, I thought it was, going to be like consumer electronic stuff, but then I went into defense and aviation, which was super fun.
When did you go into that?
So I was an intern for a rocket company called Orbital Sciences. So they're
When is this, your sophomore year? When are you talking about?
yeah, probably sophomore,
Okay,
junior
sophomore.
year. Really, really interesting company. It was kind of like SpaceX before SpaceX. They were trying to get cheap rockets into space. So their rocket group was right close to the university, and of course, a lot of the engineers there, they all went to Arizona State. So.
Right.
So that was my first experience in aerospace. And then coming out of school, I graduated in 2003. The economy wasn't great. So, I was looking anywhere I could to, try to find an opportunity. And these guys in Tucson, Arizona at Honeywell.
So there's one.
Yeah, they said.
So they came
okay.
to you. They came to you, or did you?
No, I applied.
You applied.
Yeah,
Okay.
I applied, and I definitely got a little bit fortunate. So, for the engineering interview, it wasn't just like this conversation, right? So we have a quick conversation, 5 or 10 minutes, make sure kind of normal, and then they give me three engineering problems, right? And then these two senior guys, extremely intelligent guys, are looking at you as you're doing the problems.
So
right?
wait. Okay, so when you came to this interview, you had no idea what they were going to do.
No, I didn't.
No one had told you. No one had prepped you.
Didn't know anyone. Didn't know.
Okay.
But you know what, Lance? The night before the interview, I started going over some basic, like fundamental engineering stuff.
Okay.
Two of those things I studied the night before were two of the questions. So it was pretty funny. So I was walking through it, just super confident. Oh, this is a D flip flop. The characteristic table is, and these guys are looking at me like, damn, this is on the tip of his,
Right.
So yeah, out of the three questions, I think I got two of them right. And
so you never knew. They never told you what the result was?
Yeah, well, you know what? It was funny because these guys are engineers, so they're looking at me doing it. Oh, yeah, and you could do this too, and they love it, right? That once they see someone starting to do it, and,
okay, you don't want him to fail because at least he's going for it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was good. It was a great group. It was really really great to be a part of that. I remember. I'll tell you one story that I love. My technical advisor at Honeywell, brilliant guy, his name was John Harkey, and it was a last minute thing. We had to do a circuit controller for a Rolls-Royce turbine engine, right? And this was a last minute deal, and he has his own little laboratory in his garage. So that night he did the designs that day, went to his garage, soldered it himself, tested it. And then the next morning, I saw this little printed circuit board with these soldered components on it, and I said, "Oh, is that the Rolls-Royce controller?" And John goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Did it work? How'd it go?" He goes, "Yeah, worked perfect." He goes, "Worked just like I designed it." I'm like, "Oh man, that's awesome." If it was anything, if I would have done it, I would have been so happy it worked. But John goes, "Actually, I'm kind of disappointed." And I said, "What are you talking about, man? You just said it worked perfect." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But I probably made some choices in there that I didn't fully understand." And he goes, "I probably got lucky in one or two places, And he goes, "I didn't learn anything from this project." He goes, if there would have been some little failure, then I could have learned from it." And I was so impressed. I thought, damn, here's this genius level guy, and he is so humble. And he was disappointed because he didn't learn anything.
And it's really interesting what you said, and I think everybody should hear this really well. If he failed, he would have learned something.
Yeah.
That's the important part. People think failure means failure. No, that means you have an opportunity to learn. And unfortunately, that's how our life is. But we put such a bad, rap on failure that we think, that's the last thing we want to do. Then you won't learn anything.
Yep, absolutely right. And as
that was so good.
As a 23-year-old engineer, I'm looking at this guy like he's a god. Like, damn, this guy is one of the smartest guys I know, and he's so humble. And that was a lesson that I've carried with me, throughout my career.
That is so nice. My goodness, hear that. And a lot of people don't know Rolls-Royce makes airplane engines, jet engines.
Yeah.
They think of just the car whenever they hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's interesting. So we get a circuit board.
Yeah.
It's just it's ons and off.
Yeah.
And as you put it through.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So you have the analog design and the digital stuff.
So what makes the digital and analog different? Because analog is analog just ones and zeros?
So digital's the ones and zeros. The analog is basically continuous.
Continuous. Okay, right. It's a wave.
Yep.
Okay.
And so oftentimes to get the digital, they sample this wave like this, and this is a 1 or this is a 0, and then it gets put out into the.
Now, what's the new thing? What's new that's coming up now? Because they're getting out of that. They're coming into what? Not fusion, but there's another term they're using that's going to outdo.
Oh, the quantum computers.
Quantum, yes.
Yeah.
How does that work?
That I don't know. They got these qubits. It's super sophisticated. It's using quantum mechanics, which is incredibly confusing. It's not intuitive at all. So I'm I'm just like you. I'm super curious how how this stuff's going to work.
I want someone to break it down and make it simple so you can understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
I have at least think you understand.
Yeah, yeah, for a 5-year-old.
That's right, right. It's like when Stephen Hawkins did A Brief History of Time.
Yep.
And I listened to that and I felt so sharp after that and so enriched. And then I heard him do an interview on it. He said, if anyone understood that, I don't know why, because I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But I felt that he made me feel like I was understanding something.
Yeah.
He said he didn't understand what he was talking about half the time.
This stuff is so unintuitive. It's insane, right?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, so you get in, you get with Honeywell.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you stay with Honeywell?
I was only with Honeywell for a year. So the program got canceled probably, I'm going to say 3 months after I joined.
What were you supposed to be doing?
You know,
the program.
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I never actually worked on that.
So they kept everyone separated. kept everyone separated.
Yeah, we were in the design group, but it got canceled shortly thereafter. I ended up working in circuit design for, probably 6 months total, and then I decided to go to law school. But at that point, they started shifting workers around the state because this particular place in Honeywell just didn't have the money for them. So I was a Phoenix guy anyway, so I went up to the Honeywell plant in Phoenix, Arizona. And there I was working, this was really cool. It was a Standard Missile 3. So that's on the Aegis ballistic missile cruiser. This is the one where, in theory, North Korea launches a missile and this thing hits it. That was super fun. These guys were rocket scientists, So I'll tell you one funny story. This is, you can never use this line, but we had Raytheon was our boss and Boeing was their boss and the Pentagon and our group was very slow in making these components for these missiles. It was really difficult stuff to make these valves that were in the third stage rocket motor that actually hit the incoming missile. So every day we'd have these daily meetings, 7 in the morning, and it'd be 5 or 10 engineers in Honeywell in Phoenix, and then our boss was this lady in Raytheon. And she would, she's just pounding on my boss, right? And, why isn't this behind? And what about this testing? And what about this? And blah, blah, the Pentagon's on me and, whatever, right? And finally one day my boss run this conference call and she goes, what do you want me to tell General so-and-so? And he goes, you tell General so-and-so that this is rocket science, And I was laughing, trying not to make any sound. I was like, damn, how often can you use that line?
That's right. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. So what made you decide after that? Where did you go, and why did you decide to go outside?
Yeah,
so letting you go.
So at that point, I already knew I was going to go to law school and try this patent thing, and
What made you decide that you wanted to go to law school and stop being an engineer?
I just didn't. I wasn't even aware of Silicon Valley at the time. Maybe I would have tried to go that path, but it just wasn't. I don't know. I was an Arizona kid, and I was born and raised in Arizona, and that was kind of my world. But yeah, it was just the job security issue, and I thought, patents could be kind of fun. It's a little bit different. I was always kind of into politics growing up, so the legal aspect was interesting, kind of combining these things. I thought, let me give it a shot. I said, if I don't like it, if I don't like law school, whatever, I'll just go back to being an engineer. And while you're young, I always thought let's take chances and see, if you ever had no responsibility, I didn't need any money. So yeah, let's give it a shot, see what happens. And if I don't like it, hey, I got a job here that I do like. I could always come back to this and try to figure it out and make it work, right? I will say this, when I told my my more senior colleagues at Honeywell I was going to be a lawyer, they looked at me like I was crazy. They said, Dennis, what you got the best job in the world here. What are you doing? You want to go into law? You
really have to work?
Yeah, you're insane, So, but yeah.
It's how, we see how it's glorifying to be a scientist, but usually in Disney movies or something like that. But it's interesting, your work hours have to be different. It's not a regular 9 to 5, is it?
It depends on the project. We would manufacture these printed circuit boards. So we had the design engineers there, and the guys making it, and the technicians assembling it. One thing that would get me nervous was the circuit design guys. I think there were 30 of us, and so every weekend when the engineers weren't at the plant, but they were still making stuff, one of the circuit guys had to be on call in case the assembly line got shut down for some reason.
Okay.
Something wasn't working. And I was nervous as hell when my name was called for that. I said, "Oh man, please, please don't have anything break on my watch," because I'm just a young guy there. I wouldn't know how to solve the problem really. So,
Right. But they do actually have the same. You have set hours that you have to come in, or
yeah, pretty much, except for the weekend stuff.
Okay.
Certain, obviously certain programs can, if you're running behind or something, you can work more. But yeah, it was pretty steady.
Okay, so how did you end up through your path through Honeywell, and then how did you end up here? What did you do to come
Yeah,
here?
so I went to law school at American University in
Right.
DC. So and I always
what was that decision? Where'd that come from? Or was that just the school
man,
you got
just
into?
yeah, some anyone that would take me, So yeah, Arizona State didn't take me, so I said, oh man, I'm going out of state, I guess, So
Okay, so you
and
just
then-
put it out there.
yeah, it's like okay, let's see if there are any takers. So yeah, went to American. I always knew I was going to be in the patent world. That was kind of I knew that from the beginning. And the U.S. Patent Office is in Alexandria, Virginia, so right next to D.C.
Mhm.
So there's a fair amount of patent attorney jobs in the D.C. area. It's kind of the mecca, right? The big cities have most of the jobs, but D.C. is the biggest of the guys doing what I'm doing. So I was able to get a job, really quick, and my colleague at the law firm were super nice. We had a lot of Japanese clients, so that was my first exposure kind of to the Japanese business world, right?
Okay.
The main partner, this guy, Ken Hattori, he was, semi-famous in the patent world, right? Not famous in the outside world, but so I worked under him and came to Japan once or twice for a business trip, and then, probably after, I think I was there 7 years. And it was a great place. Loved my colleagues. Everyone was super nice.
No,
But
you working in the patent attorney office?
in Washington, D.C.,
D.C.,
representing a lot of Japanese clients and customers and
that was your first initial contact with the Japanese.
and helping them try to get patents in the U.S.
Mhm.
But after, I think, 5 years, it got a little bit boring, to be honest with you. There wasn't the variety of work that I wanted. And I didn't have any of my own clients or customers. And so I started looking to start up my own company, and I knew Japan. There's lots of, patent guys, we work with engineering companies, right? So
Okay.
Japan, I mean, you pick out anyone in the U.S. and they can name 20 or 30 Japanese engineering companies. Just everyone knows them. All the car companies, the electronic companies, right? I mean, there's so many good companies there. So there's a lot of potential work here.
Okay.
So I thought, all right, let me see if I can make this work. Maybe I can get a client. I was 32 when I came here, so I thought maybe I can get a good client if I come here.
So let's say you get a client, Dennis.
Yeah.
You're looking for someone that's pumping out a lot of
Yeah.
projects, so they are making a lot of patents.
Yes, exactly. So these
Right?
big engineering companies, yeah,
Okay.
they're the easiest. You could work with solo inventors.
But then
It's
one or two.
Yeah, it's a lot more work, and you always have to be finding new people, and it's a lot more hand holding. It can be kind of fun because the invention's very important to this person, but it's a lot of hand holding, a lot of questions. When you work with a big company, these guys are pros.
They're pumping it out.
Exactly,
All the time.
they know what they're doing.
So let's take an example. Let's say I'm making the iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm the company that makes the iPhone. What am I asking for a patent in? What are the things? What would be some of the components that I'd be
Sure.
getting patents on?
Yeah, I heard someone estimate one time there's like 1,500 patents that cover the iPhone or something like that, right?
Just the iPhone itself.
Yeah, and all the components in it. So any of the circuitry, the lenses, the cameras, the software that's in there.
The shape.
Yeah, the shape can be patented. That's called a design patent, and,
Okay, right,
and
right.
usually we're talking for the functional stuff. We'll talk about a utility patent. That covers the utility of it. So yeah, there's a ton of things in there that you can patent.
But there's also, isn't there a generic list of things that can't be patented?
Yeah. So
For example.
everything that's been patented where the patent has expired, that is free to the public. And
Oh, you mean it can never be patented again?
correct. So that is the fundamental deal between the government and the people. So the government is going to grant the inventor an exclusive right to basically to make his invention, right, for about 20 years, let's say. So he has monopoly power. So he can charge, whatever prices. No one else can make it. So he can make all the money he can in that first 20 years. Has that market advantage. But after 20 years, he can't enforce that patent anymore. So now it gets disclosed to the public. And that's the idea of the patent system, to help kind of promote science and advance, advanced technology.
Now, that only applies in America, right?
So, patents are for each individual country. But so basically, you want to get a patent anywhere you make and sell the claimed invention.
Okay.
But your patent only covers
that
whatever country that you're in, and whatever you applied for. So let's say you're a Japanese car company, you're Honda. You're going to get a patent in U.S. and Canada, in your biggest markets, right? Wherever you're selling these things, and then also you probably want to get patents wherever you're making it. So if you're not selling many cars in Thailand, many big cars in Thailand, but you're making it there, you'll probably get a patent there too.
But that doesn't stop China from making the same identical car in China.
Exactly.
Can they sell that car they've made in China anywhere they want?
Not if there's a patent in that country.
Okay, so they would be. Okay, so if it came in, the people who brought it in would be in problem. Would have a problem.
Exactly. That's where Honda could enforce
their patent.
And that's why
you want a patent, you can't use this car.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and the U.S. is in general, it's the biggest market for almost all these companies. So everyone's going for patents in the U.S. And the U.S. legal system is very robust. It's expensive. So, patents are much more valuable in the U.S. than it would be in other countries.
In other countries, right.
Yep.
And you want to hope that your patent is making you money so that you can afford the lawyers that it's going to take for you to enforce it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't enforce it, what good is it?
Yeah, patent lawsuits can be quite expensive. So, so my brother was a patent litigator, and I think, it'd be $3 million minimum, and that's for the cheapest possible.
What's the time?
Well, that would be down to after the jury trial. So that
so you mean there's a set amount. Yeah. So it didn't matter how long it took, but you're going to be paying about $3 million.
Yeah, at minimum. Yeah. Right. At minimum. So it's expensive. You can send threat letters. Threat letters are cheap.
They're cheap, but they won't stop your patent from being used.
Going to trial is tough. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is so interesting. What has been some of the most pleasure you've gotten out of being here in Japan this 10 years?
Oh, it's so, it is interesting how people think differently than in the U.S. and the West.
Give me some examples.
And one example, there's one example that I love. It's so funny to Americans, at least, right? I know you'll appreciate it. So I'm getting my first apartment. It's in Kobe. It's right near American Park. And I have someone, like a translator, kind of helping me because there weren't, I didn't know anything, and there weren't many real estate agents who could speak English. So she's helping me, and we do the deal, and we sign the lease, and whatever. And so after it's signed, I asked her, Kazune, how, so I did this for 2 years, but I said after the lease is up in 2 years, how much do you think he's going to raise the rent? What do you think, like 5%, 10%, or what can I expect, right? She looks at me like I'm from Mars. She goes, Dennis, he's not going to raise the rent. He goes, the building in the apartment's going to be older. If anything, he's going to lower the rent. And she thought I was insane. I'm looking at her like, I guess it makes sense. I've never even considered this perspective.
Isn't that interesting? Okay. Yeah. So what makes you stay in Japan?
When I came here, I told myself, let me give it 3 years. Even if I totally hate it, my commitment is going to be 3 years. I'll suffer through it. And I'll at least have some good stories to tell back home. Okay. Maybe make some friends.
That's where
whatever.
you go. You go back to Arizona, or would you go to the East Coast?
Yeah, DC now.
DC now.
Yeah. But it's been good. The business has been relatively successful, and made friends and enjoying Japan. So every year I kind of reevaluate and.
Oh, so you haven't decided I'm going to be here yet?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be here permanently, but my goal would be 6 months here, 6 months in U.S. That would be my goal.
So you like what you've developed here so far?
Yeah, I like it,
That's
and
nice.
I like the people here, the community.
Yeah, that's right.
It's different being an expat somewhere. You can almost instantly be friends with someone, or just have that connection where
you have to be into a clique.
Yeah.
Everywhere else.
Yeah.
But that's the same here if you're not a part of the expat community.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you are. So that's something I had to learn after being here for a while. I said, it's the expats who have the open minds that want to go and do things. They're the ones that you see on Discovery Channel. And they're the ones you can talk about anything because they've been dealing with people from all over, and they realize it's a human issue, not a racial, not a religious, not an economic issue. It's a human issue.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to discover that when you get in the expat community. Because people, first of all, they have to be pretty well off. They're above normal.
Mm-hmm.
They're above average. So economics aren't the issue they're dealing with so much. So they have a chance to really look inside and share their feelings without any threat. They don't have to worry about their religion because they're usually not in a place where that's a big issue, among their group anyway. Mm-hmm. So I just love, or politics. They're not in their country a lot of times. So I really enjoy the expat life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. But it's hard to go back to domestic life. Even here in Japan, I like to touch it, but I don't know if I could live in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you learned the language? Have you tried to learn Japanese?
You know what? I know a little bit, but not a lot. I'm actually I'm starting to restudy now to get better. So.
Okay. For what reason?
Yeah, just to make life easier and to.
Have you found? Have you had to use Japanese in your business, or do you think that would help your business more?
So it certainly would. The level. It would be a little difficult for business, but it would definitely be helpful. So that would be nice if I could do it. But that level's more than just the casual conversation level at that point, because it's much more technical and
different dialogue. Right?
Yeah.
You have to learn this specialized dialogue. Well, before I end the podcast, Dennis, I'd like to ask this question: if you could go back in time with the knowledge you have now and meet the younger Dennis, how old would he be, and what advice would you give him?
That's interesting. Probably, I would probably talk to him early college.
Wait, first of all, how old are you now?
I'm 43.
43, okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know, probably when I was 18 or 19-ish, when I was just starting college, because I really struggled in the beginning of my engineering classes. And I would just tell him, just have perseverance, right? And one of my favorite quotes is from Thomas Paine: "The harder the struggle, the more glorious the triumph."
Wow.
Right? And it makes it more satisfying when you achieve it. So just stick with it and keep going.
That's beautiful, Dennis. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lance. I appreciate it.
I want to thank all of you for watching this podcast. Make sure you press like and subscribe. And never forget, it's all unknown, so continue to reach for the stars.
Because you're too blessed to be stressed.